So in that place of intimacy, that place of rest, faith is not the position of striving.
Mm-hmm.
Faith is the position of surrender.
Mm-hmm.
It's not measured by effort. It's measured by yieldedness.
Mm-hmm.
It's a place of rest. In that place is where we get used by God to make the decree, to bring about the change,
Mm-hmm.
bring about the shift.
Mm-hmm.
You know, many of us for years have had promises given to us over and over and over again, and there's no answer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, somebody has promised, you know, they've had economic problems, and they get promises. The prophet comes through town and says, "I see gold being poured out on your lap," and we're going, "Bring it on, Jesus," you know. And yet for years they continue in the same problem. Why? Why would the prophet come 10 times to an individual and give them the same word, and yet there's no breakthrough? God's not teasing. He's not tormenting.
Hmm.
They've just not learned. We have two roles. And this is where we need wisdom. In one position, we are positioned by the Lord to do nothing, to stand by,
Mm-hmm.
see the salvation of the Lord. God has decreed something, and our responsibility is to do what? Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
We're to stand there in a place to observe what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And there are times that's what he has for us. But the other times he has us in a co-laboring position.
Mm-hmm.
We hear the promise, we wait for him to do it, and he's waiting for us to take the promise, put it in word form, agree with him, and start exercising that authority to make decrees.
Mm-hmm.
And when we co-labor with him in this role, that's when the miracle gets released.
Mm-hmm. How do you discern those?
Just experience. There isn't a formula. It's just you cry out to God.
Mm-hmm.
And if he keeps, let's put it this way, if he keeps giving you the same promise over and over again and nothing's happening, then change your position.
Mm-hmm.
Change your position. Find out, how is it that I can make agreement? Because what we don't want to do is create an Ishmael.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't want to overstep our role and create something that now, is going to be a problem for us, which Abraham did. What we do want to do is find out what his heart is, and you only learn that through relationship. God, is this the place where I step in and co-labor?
Mm-hmm.
And if there's a repeated word that comes over and over again and there's no breakthrough, you may want to readjust the position, because that means God's intended to do something, but our lack of responsibility and seeing the word fulfilled, has really left us in kind of a barrenness. Abraham and Sarah is a great example. They overstepped their bounds, and he went into Hagar at Ishmael, thinking he was helping God with his will. Well, when Isaac was born, they still had to be intimate. They still had to be the act of marriage, or there would be no child. It wasn't immaculate conception. It wasn't God just did everything without their laboring role. They still had to do something, but there was a timing and a procedure to step into what God was wanting to do in giving them a child. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
So it wasn't that God it wasn't immaculate conception, there was the act of marriage, but it was that cooperation with his will that released the miracle. And so that's what we've got with our lives. We've got God constantly is bringing stuff to us that promises and visions and hopes and dreams, and these things just boil in us. But because we don't know the difference between the stand by and see the salvation of the Lord and the co-laboring role, Frank, we spend a good part of our life just barren, thinking it's God's will. He's just taking us through a dry season. No, he's given us the way out of the dry season, but we've not learned this other part of the kingdom where we are co-laborers with the Lord. And so if we can become co-laborers without creating an Ishmael, we'll do well.
Yeah.
And it's just wisdom. It's a relationship. You just ask him. He's real generous in talking to us.
Yeah. We'll conclude with this one. One of the most important things for pastors is an intimate relationship with God. How have you structured your life, or how have you pursued that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
What do we need to be doing? Because it's easy for, the board meetings and the church plant's not going well and all this stuff to crop up and to just get us off course. What have you personally done to kind of pursue that and to make that number one?
Jack Hayford was one of my favorite people on the planet. I heard him make a statement, I think it was way back in the 70s or early 80s. he was asked questions, or he was talking about prayer and spending time with the Lord. And he's a real champion in that in so many things. He said, stay there. Talk about that time of prayer. Stay there till he warms your heart. I was so taken back by this statement that it's stayed with me, 20, 30 years now, where stay there till he warms your heart. And I have since learned that for me, the intimate relationship with the Lord is only successful when I feel my own heart, my affection for God being stirred. I've told our folks so many times that I try to go to sleep every night with my heart of affection being stirred for God. Prayer is a lot easier when you live in that mode. It's not something you turn on, turn off. It is an ongoing. I believe in the blocks of time, and I love the blocks of time, but that's not the point. The point is that true affection for God. Because what happens is, even right now, anytime I just turn my affection towards him, his presence just begins to manifest. He's such a lover of people. He loves to draw near. And just turning my heart of affection towards him, not filled with things to do, not the performance of I've got to be busy with my prayer list, or even I got to sing these praise songs or whatever. Right. Just literally just turning my heart of affection towards him. He just begins to manifest on me because he's such a lover. And so what we learn to do then is just throughout the day, just take the moments where you just turn your heart of affection, where your heart just is warmed by him. It's in that place of intimacy that everything is supposed to come. It's, there's the Mary Martha thing, you don't get any points for making sandwiches Jesus didn't order. Right. Mary was the one who drew near to Jesus to sit at his feet. And it's not true that if there were no Marthas in the world, nothing would ever get done. That phrase was created by a Martha that needed to justify her ministry. Mike Bickle says it best. He says there's two kinds of believers. He says there's workers and there's lovers. And lovers get more work done than do workers. It's a profound statement because it's absolutely true. So ones that are intimate with the Lord, that catch his heartbeat, that actually get more stuff done. So the intimacy with the Lord really is the heart and soul of it. And it's not just the blocks of times, it's the way we live in response to his presence. Then it makes being instant, in season and out, a whole lot easier. The miracle realm becomes much more tangible because we're not calling out to God to do something, we're living with his heartbeat. And that's really what Jesus tried to model for us, I think. And so that's what we're trying to learn. That's the heart and soul of my relationship with the Lord right there, is that intimacy that was in many ways ignited by that phrase. Just stay there till he warms your heart.